So it's not their fault that they stuffed it up. What did you do wrong as the boss to not set them up for success? If you keep blaming them, nothing's going to change.
G'day guys, welcome back to another episode of Level Up. We are back in the shed this afternoon, and as you'll hear through this episode, it's a real building show today because we've got a lot of building work going on literally just outside the shed, so apologise for all the noise. I love it. I think it's some people pay for sound effects like this, and we're getting it for free. This is going to be another cracking episode today, and I'm quite thrilled or excited to see where this one's going to go. The young fellow we've got on the show today has been in business since 2019, actually contacted me through social media probably 12, 18 months ago now, I'd assume.
A while back, yeah.
And he's actually flown up here today from Melbourne and he's in Brisbane for an awards night with a coaching company that he's currently working with, which I'm super keen to get into and talk about more. But one of his proudest moments so far is getting his builder's licence. And I know this is going to be a great chat and we're going to get on because he loves AC/DC, Cold Chisel, Van Halen, Guns N' Roses, monster trucks, speedboats and all the camping and outdoors shit, the same stuff that I'm all about. So big warm welcome to Michael from Signature Building Co. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Thanks for having me.
Mate, thanks for taking the time out while you're up here in Brizzy to jump on and have a chat with us.
Yeah, not a problem, mate. I'm keen to see how this goes, yeah.
I find this awesome because you're only 26 years old, is that right?
Yeah.
And you're already investing time and money into coaching and mentoring and stuff. So you've reached out to me online quite a few times about, like, as you move on, jumping on board with Live Like Build and Elevate and stuff, but most of your business at the moment is contract carpentry work. Mate, I take my hat off to you. For someone of your age and your position to see the value in spending money and time on yourself, like, I just think that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, look, to be honest, it sort of all came out of desperation, to be honest. I was right on the verge of throwing the towel in on doing this anymore because it was like just all coming to a head. Like, I wasn't making any money and just stressed out and just over it in general. So I was like, I got to do something different and, doing poke around online, talking to a few different guys. I said, you got to get a coach on board.
So what's your background? Like, where have you come from? Like, is your family in the industry? Or?
Nothing. My parents couldn't be the furthest thing from being in the trade at all. My old boy is in IT and mum's in disability. So, yeah, furthest thing from it. My pa was an engineer for the Shell company, so that might be something. But, it's sort of coming out of school. I sort of was like, I did a pre-app, while I was at school, and I was like, yeah, wouldn't mind doing some sort of trade. But, as school sort of wound up, I was like to mum, yeah, wouldn't mind taking a gap year, And she goes, you're not taking a gap year. There's no way.
Yeah.
If you don't have a job, you're not in this house anymore. So that sort of pushed me into gear to get the apprenticeship going. And yeah.
So you've done your trade as a carpenter?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how long since you finished your time?
Well, funny enough, I actually finished up my time and went straight out on my own. So it was sort of one of those things. My boss sort of pushed us out the door. He had a couple of qualifieds and he sort of wanted to wind back what he was doing, get rid of the qualifieds, just keep apprentices. And he had two other guys. One of them had been out of his time for probably 2 or 3 years. And he said, well, why don't you two, start something, partnership, and I'll give you the contacts and just go start smashing out some frames and make some money. So, yeah, that's what we did. We just sort of wound up. And I learned a heap more than I ever learned in my apprenticeship in that first year out, that's for sure.
So you've got a partner in Signature?
Not anymore. No? So we used to have a company called J&M Built, and we ran that we got 4 years out now. So we did it for 3. Signature Building's only 1 year old now.
Yeah, partnerships are hard deals, aren't they?
Oh, mate, it was really hard trying to, keep the balance of... We started the business thinking we could have a bit of work-life balance, and that never happened. And, it was hard work, but it was also good to have someone there to bounce everything off.
When they work, they're magic. But it's really hard finding partners that you can really gel with and have get on. And I guess the other hard thing about partners is finding a partner that you can bounce ideas off without the other one getting the shits.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's sort of what happened in the end. Not anything bad, but, I was like going, I think I want to be a builder. He's going, well, I don't know if I really want to do that,
Yeah.
So that sort of was a bit of tension. But
So how long have you, at what point did you start looking for coaching? Was that when you were with your business partner? Or
yeah, so as he wound up and left the business, it was about then when it all sort of started coming to a head for me, where I was like, a lot more work now. Because I used to do a lot of the book stuff and dealing with supervisors and stuff, so I could answer the phone, and now I'm trying to manage all these guys and be on the phone and fix problems and whatever else. So it sort of all came to a head, and that's where I was like, I need to do something different for sure. Yeah.
So the coaching stuff you've been doing, it's who's the company you've been doing it with?
So it's with Pro Trade United. It's a 12-month course. So started in September and winding up in September. So
yeah, what's it cover? What sort of stuff are you doing in the program?
Sort of everything. It's very blanket course. It's trade specific. They don't allow any business to walk into it. But it's about quoting jobs right, managing your team, creating cultures. They have this thing called the business mountain, and basically as the mountain progresses, it's sort of the more base camps you have to get to before you get up the mountain. It's sort of those foundation, base camps that you have to build to a business that's at the top of the mountain.
Yeah, no, it's important stuff, and that's an awesome structure. I'm sure just that in itself has probably been an eye-opener for you to see that you have to have all these structures to ultimately get to a point where you have a bit of freedom and your work-life balance and stuff. I think a lot of people don't get this, freedom, success, money in your bank, all this stuff. Goals don't come without having structure.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And we had none. We had no structure at all. And it's still a long way to go. But I feel like in the 12 months, we've definitely propelled massively from where we were.
So have you been so you got to a point where you realised you needed to get some help to progress in your business? Are you still doing similar work now to what you were then, but you've been able to have a professional business by still doing that same work, or have you had to get rid of some work, or what's the story behind that?
Yeah, we had to look at definitely the builders we were contracting to. Were they aligning with where we want to be? Which was a hard thing to do.
That's important, isn't it?
Well, it just makes your life so much difficult if no one wants to help you. And these supervisors, because we were doing a lot of really sort of first home buyer stuff. So we sort of went through an evolution. So we went first home buyer, then we moved up to sort of your higher end volume, went into some real custom stuff, then came back to that high end, and then I was like, at the end of last year, I was like, I might try the volume stuff again. Now I've got these boys that are quite experienced. Maybe I'll try the volume stuff. We can just pump out some volume stuff. And that was the worst decision I ever made, because these first-time supervisors didn't care about me, didn't care about how much money I was making. They couldn't even answer their phone most of the time,
Yeah.
So that really killed me for sure.
So I'm pretty curious to find out from a young bloke like yourself, because I know when I was your age and had a large carpenter gang and smashing out heaps of work, I was pretty slack on the contract side of things. Have you got contracts in place with the builders you're working with?
No, there's no contracts. We just get handed a PO. This is how much you're getting paid for the job. This is the scope of works you have to do inside of that, and you just go and do it.
Yeah. And so how does it get dealt with if other stuff comes up, or how do you stick to that scope of work?
You just got to do it, because they're just going to call you back and call you back and call you back. If you don't have QA processes and make sure that everything that is on that PO is getting done, you're just going to get called back a million times, and then any profit you did make in that slim margin is just gone. You're not going to have it.
Look, just I guess some advice from my experience, and like I said, I was in your position, I did it for years. You've got to kick back and or push back, and if they don't have contracts, you need to have a contract that you get them to sign. Everything comes back to your documentation. And I think for a young bloke like yourself moving forward, take the time and effort, develop, or you can probably get them off the shelf even, but come up with a contract that you can, if they give you a scope of works, just put that into a contract, but have something that you're actually getting them to sign off on, because I actually think it's a really shitty part of the industry, because I feel sorry for guys like yourself, because I know there's builders out there that rely on not having documentation and contracts with their subbies and everybody, and I know it gets you in a hard situation, because you start feeling well, I've got to go back and do that, otherwise they're not going to pay me for all the work they've already done.
Yep.
So you end up doing more work to get money that you've already earned.
Yep.
and then you're out of pocket because you've spent more time than what you should have spent.
And you end up doing it to keep the supervisor on side so that all those things in good faith do end up getting paid as well. Like, it's a terrible part of the industry. I think it needs to go for sure.
I'm a huge fan now of you've got to take responsibility for the situations you put yourself in. So you either got to look at working with other builders and stop working for those builders, or you've got to take it into your own hands and say, hey mate, look, I'm happy to keep doing your work, but moving forward, I've actually come up with this contract, and before I start any work on site, we're going to have to sign this off before I do anything. And then you're actually taking control then, and you can put everything in there. You can put your payment terms, like all sorts of things, if you need progress draws. So you really take the responsibility. And once you've got a contract, look, there's still going to be probably guys out there that might try and push you and take advantage or not still want to pay, but you've got a contract.
Yeah.
You've actually got a document that if push comes to shove, you've got a leg to stand on.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see value in it for sure.
Yeah.
It's just, I'd be interested to see how it actually is played off in reality with these guys, because it's very much one of those things where it's like either you do it or you don't.
Yeah.
And
mate, I've been in your shoes like that, honestly. Like we, when I had heaps of, like, I know at our peak, 40, 50 odd carpenters, and like I remember there was a few volume builders that back in the day we really, like, they just loved how organised I was and how I had a great team, and I pushed everyone along. And like I remember we would go into streets, and I think the most we ever did, I think it was like 8 or 9 side by side, like, and so it was so easy. I made it so easy for the supervisors. Like, we just turned up, I had big crews. Like, we'd literally just bang, 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 bang. Like, all their trades would follow behind us. Like, I was making them money, and I was busting my balls to make bloody $10.
That's it, yeah.
But, mate, I was in that situation heaps of times. I remember a couple clear as, like, where supervisors would miss variation that a client had discussed with the builder, and they hadn't provided us with the correct set of drawings or whatever.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's on us to be, like, they're handing us to go back and change a swinging door to a cavity sliding door or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And I'm like, mate, I've finished that job. Like, hurry up and pay me. Like, I've done what was on the plans you gave me. Oh, no, look, we can't pay until you come back and make this change. Like, well, that fucking change wasn't on the drawings. Like, and it just goes around in circles.
Yeah.
Like, and look, knowing what I know now, that's the best advice I can give yourself and any young or any carpenters in your position. Like, you've got to push back on the builders, because these volume builders, mate, they will keep taking advantage for as long as they possibly can. And look, you might have to walk away from doing their work, because on the flip side of that is there's a shitload of builders out there that want to run good businesses and do the right thing and build good relationships. So
and that's one of those things. You know, when I started the business, there was one job in particular for everyone would know the builder, but we did a heap of work that was outside of our scope, things like installing the structural steel because they couldn't get a steel fixer to come and do it. All different things. Oh yeah, we'll pay you, you know, to the tune of $4,000, and then in the end there was no money. And I should have known. I knew that I should have had a PO in my hand before I did the job, but did the task. But when it's
an expensive lesson, isn't it?
Well, when you're in the thick of it, and it's like, well, you've got two options: you either put the steel up, or you get delayed on this job, and then there's nothing else for you to do, or, you know, you've got to run around and find other work. You end up going, well, it looks like we're putting that steel up, aren't we? You know?
Oh, mate, look, I think this flows through to not just young guys like yourself, but like all trades, and even myself as a builder like you. It is a tricky situation to navigate when you're in a position where I'm sure you're no different to me. You take it quite personally that you've got a team and you've got to keep them paid every week. They've got bills and family to look after and all those types of things. And it can be hard to make that decision. Well, I'm just going to have to walk off the job. Like, you feel like you're doing the right thing because you're like, oh, I just got to keep the boys working. And in the end, you're the only one. Like, us as the bosses, we're the only ones that lose out, because I'm sure if you're anything like me, you still pay your team, and then you have to go and fight with the builder or the homeowner or whatever it is to get paid.
Well, that's it, and the boss gets paid last, isn't it? That's the reality. And actually, I was listening to that latest podcast you had out. And he made a really great point about, you know, it always works out in the end. You know, you're really stressing about what's going to happen if I do walk off this job. I've got no other work. But, you know, now I reflect back on every time we've been in a position like that, and it just works out in the end. you know.
Oh man, it just doesn't work out. Like, it's what you put out there. Everyone thinks, like, I was the same. I used to think this was all bloody airy fairy shit, but mate, what you put out to the universe comes back. And I am a massive believer now that, like, the situations you put yourself in, you'll keep continuing to get in those situations if you keep accepting that position you're in. So if you keep taking on work without purchase orders or without contracts, you're just going to end up back in that same situation all the time. That's the hamster wheel that we all get stuck on. So you put out to the universe, well, no, stuff this. Like, if there's no purchase order, mate, me and my team, we're out here. We're going to work for a builder that will give me a contract. You'll start to, like, it just happens. Like, you just start to attract better
right people.
Yeah, the right people.
That's it. And it's the same thing with being a builder, you know, attracting the right customers as well, you know.
Yeah.
If you put yourself out there as that really professional business, then you're already leaps and bounds in front trying to find those ideal customers.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I think I've sort of come to the conclusion now, like, I used to butt my head against the wall and get so frustrated about our industry and that it's everybody else's fault and that things will never change. And, like, that's what's got to where it is now with, like, Live, Life, Build and Quoties and my building business and doing this podcast. Like, I'm creating a new industry now, and we're creating our own, I guess, environment. Like, we're attracting the right people, trades, builders, like people like yourself, like, reaching out, come on this podcast, tell your story, because your story, like this podcast we're doing right now, is going to resonate with, who knows, hundreds of other people, thousands of other people in the industry. And slowly, through these stories, those builders that are running those shit shows that aren't given purchase orders, are getting people to do work and then not paying them, they're not going to be able to do it, mate, because everyone out there is going to be...
No one will work for them.
Yeah.
That's it, isn't it?
Yeah. It is, like, the reality is, it is a small world. So...
We'll be back after a quick break.
Sorry to interrupt, guys, but we've got to thank our sponsors, because without them, we can't keep delivering you this incredible podcast. So massive shout out to DPS Constructions, Quoties, Live, Life, Build, and 44 Gallon Films. Make sure you go and check those guys out, support them so that we can keep delivering you this incredible podcast.
And I've learnt that massively, you know. It's funny, it's probably very similar all over Australia, but in Melbourne, someone knows someone. Oh, this chippy's worked for that builder. That builder, oh, don't work for him because my mate got burnt by him. You know, it's funny how small the industry is.
Yeah.
You know, and now that I'm doing a lot more networking with, you know, key players in the industry and stuff, you go, oh, yeah, I know them. Yeah, we work with them.
Yeah.
It's crazy how small it really is.
Yeah. So with this... the coaching stuff that you're doing, do they touch on contracts and what you should be doing? Like, because if it's all trade based, like, I'd imagine they should be teaching some contractual stuff.
Yeah, there's contract stuff in there. It's more from a builder point of view, you know, signing your HIA contract or your master builders, whatever you're sort of with. Not really anything for the trade specifically,
Yeah. Well, mate, look, I hope if there's one thing you can take away from this podcast, we're only, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes in, is, mate, either find an industry one that you can use or create your own. Like make sure you've got contracts and don't continue. Like, I know it's hard when you're on site doing the framing and the structural still is part of what you need to, like, especially if it's 2-story, like, you need beams and shit to be able to do your second story. Like, I feel for you. Like, you get in those situations and you like, fuck it, I've just, like, if I don't do it, I can't continue with my frame, and then I'm not going to get my drawer, and I'm not going to get money in the bank to pay my team. Like,
it's a vicious cycle, you know, and you end up always back on the schedule thing.
Yeah.
You know, if I have to push them, whichever supplier it may be, trust supplier or whoever, on a delivery, we're now going to be 2 weeks out.
Yeah.
You know, it's
So are you doing work for multiple builders?
Yeah, we sort of work for your big three.
Yeah.
Still currently, and then we service a couple of small custom home builders and a couple of smaller, still volume but high-end volume builders as well.
Yeah, I'm more keen to know, just from my own curiosity, to see how much it's changed since I was doing this type of work. Like, what's their payment terms like?
The big three are really good. I think they have to be.
Yeah.
7 days.
So that is good.
Yeah, but it's a weird one, because you have to be ticked off by the supervisor on a certain day to be getting that payment the next week. And if they miss it, then you get pushed out 2 weeks. So there's that. But, you know, still a lot of the smaller builders, a lot of the custom home guys are still on 2 weeks. So.
Yeah.
But I think for volume, they have to be 7 days. They've got to be.
Mate, when I was doing volume stuff, it was not unusual to go, well, standard was pretty much 30 days or 45 days. And it was definitely not unusual unusual to go 60 and 90 days.
Yeah, no. You can't be having that.
Yeah, it was shocking, mate. Like the money, when I got up to that point where we had 40, 50 carpenters, like the money I had to have available to feed
Cash
the
flow,
business, like while I was waiting on hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars from multiple different builders was huge. Like I think so many people don't understand that behind the scenes stuff like that goes on. Like there's a lot of money especially if you're paying your boys weekly. Yeah, the money gets chewed up pretty quickly.
And all the other stuff that comes along with running a business, your insurances and just... I can go to Total Tools and blow $1,000 like that, like without even thinking about it.
So 10, like 20.
Exactly. However much you want, it depends what you're buying. But, just to run the business, you would need nails and whatever else. You just... $1,000, no worries.
Actually, this is probably a good topic. I actually think I don't know if it's something we've touched on too much in this podcast, but like you're a good example because you're in it right now. Like, how much do you reckon your trailer's worth? 100 grand, 150 grand?
No, it wouldn't be 150. It'd be probably 50, I reckon.
I wouldn't. Like you think about how much your tools are worth and like everything in there. Like it doesn't take much to get up to 100 grand.
Yeah, that's true.
Like I think about this quite a bit. Like clients, and especially this is more so for tradie guys, but like clients, whatever you're doing, if you're a plumber or a sparky rocking up to do a call out, or you're a carpenter going to do a frame for another builder or build a deck for a client, whatever the case is, that they get so focused on, let's say like the call out fee, it's whatever, $100 an hour, or you're throwing a frame up for a builder and it's $9,000 or whatever. No one takes into consideration that over your career you've had to like. You drag your office behind your ute, or these days most people have canopies or vans or whatever, but it is not, like, I guarantee you it would not be hard, and I think you'd be surprised if you added it up. I reckon most good chippies out there would have 80 to 150 grand's worth of tools to be able to do the job that they do. Especially
when you start talking about specialised tools as well, like set-out lasers and table saws and...
Mate, a decent, let's say like a Milwaukee pack-out kit these days with like your 8 or 10 tools in it. Like they're tools $3,000. Like then your nail guns are, what are they now?
About
$1,000 or $1,200 each, and like you might have multiple of them, and then your drop saws a couple of grand. Like then all
adds up, doesn't it?
Oh, and then like ladders and planks and trestles and lasers. Like it's huge, and that's all. It's all getting carted around on your back like a bloody turtle, job to job.
And you need it you need all of them all the time as well. Like you can't afford not to have it in the trailer, because the one time you do need it, you're guaranteed not to have it.
I know, like I find this strange because like everything, it's a throwaway world these days, which really shits me. But like back in the day when I was an apprentice and through my early days of my career, like there was multiple people around that like you actually booked them to come to site. And like you got your tool service. So we had this one guy, Kevy Sharpen it. Like he would, like my boss, he was like, you had to book him months in advance. My boss used him. Then when I started my own, I started using him, and like he would literally turn up to site. And we had the leather cases, so like you would have 4, 5, 6 hand saws in a case. You'd have, like when I had heaps of chippies, like it wasn't uncommon for me to have 30 or 40 saw blades in leather cases. So he would come to site and sharpen all your blades.
Yeah, right.
Like,
unheard of now,
mate. Now everything's just throw away.
Just
you buy
out,
a hand saw for what do you buy a hand saw for? $7?
Yeah, like nothing.
And then the nail guns. Like we obviously all had the. I still push my team to use the air tools. I think they're the way to go. But
get the big Senkos out.
Yeah, mate. Like we all had guns because you were carrying a 4 kilo gun around all day, every day. But like, yes, he was the same. He'd come out to site. Like I couldn't even tell you how many nail guns I had. Like I know when I was apprentice, worked for my boss, I hit about 8 nail guns. Actually, no. Well, that was framers, and then I think we had 5 or 6 finishers. We had multiple T-nailers. So yeah, there's probably an arsenal of 20 odd guns. And so this other guy would come out and pull them apart on site and check, like change the pistons, the O-rings.
Mate, that'd be unreal.
I don't even know if that exists anymore.
I don't know about it. There is a few small tool shops. Like we work with one that's fantastic, and they can turn tools around within a few hours. So even now I'm out in Druin, I'll travel the hour and a half to go take them there because you can't beat that turnaround time.
So how does it work with your stuff? Like, does a builder say to you, hey, this frame here is $7,700?
Yeah, so you'll get the PO, whatever its amount is, and they'll supply all the timber, all your hardware. You just got to bring nails and coils. Let's say it's a frame, nails and coils. You might have to supply specific screws to screw down the floor with, but for the most part, they're supplying everything. But you end up buying a whole lot of miscellaneous stuff, like triples here and there or whatever, just to be able to have it because they never supply enough.
But is that how it works? So they say this is the price to do that frame.
Yeah.
And you just have to get it done as quick as you can, and you make whatever's left.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
It just blows my mind that it hasn't changed a lot since 20 odd years or 18 years ago when I was doing that. Like you basically got handed a set of drawings and you had to smash it up. Like there was no this price for this price you need to do.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like knowing what I know now and where I've come from and what I do with my trades, like mate, if the builders you're working for aren't doing it, I'd be giving it back to them and saying, all right, well I'll do that job for whatever, 8 or 9 grand, and this is what I'm doing. So, well, they stick frames or pre-nailed frames?
It's all over. It depends which ones you work for. A lot of them were prefab, they're now stick.
Yeah,
it's starting to swing back the other way now, back to prefab.
Yeah, so mate, give them as much detail as you can. Like, so I would be providing them the same scope that I pretty much give my clients now in our proposals. So, mate, you could jump on with quotes. I can set you up a template. But like again, this is just advice. But if I was you and they're saying, hey, this frame is going to be this much, I would be saying, all right, well, I accept that, and this is what I'm doing for that, and it would be as detailed as check the slab for square, flick and mark out the slab, cut and prepare all the timber, erect all the timber framing, plumb and straight and ready for trusses, complete all tie down as per engineering, install all roof trusses, complete all the tie down on the roof trusses. Like it would be literally be a list of probably 24 line items, and if it changes from that,
there's a variation.
Yeah.
Like, and that, look, this is probably where these volume builders are at. They really, and I've noticed this, they want guys that don't know any better.
100%.
They want guys that don't know about contracts,
100%.
because they want the fresh out of their time guys that don't know any better.
100%. Well, look, to a certain extent, but they also, mate, they're going into these volume builders, and well, not just volume builders, most builders are working on the thinnest margins. And most builders, like I'm a firm believer, most builders are trading insolvent. So like you just said, they rely on you not kicking back and being like knowing that you need their paycheck. So if they ask you for a few variations, you got no choice. You're just going to they'll just keep feeding you along. Like I hear so many stories now, people reaching out to me on socials, particularly with the big commercial guys, and like stories of where they've completely finished all their works and the client for the commercial builder has requested a variation. The commercial builder just expects them to do it, even though they're charging a variation for it.
Yep.
And then basically says to them, "Oh, look, if you want the next job, you've got to do it." Like,
yeah, and that's the funny thing as well with let's just say these volume builders, they've got their floor plans and the client wants to make a change from a just swinging opening door to a cavity slider. They charge them, and I know this because I just built a volume builder house for myself, and they charged us $1,700 to change that door to a cav slider. The chippy didn't get paid any more to put the cav slider unit in.
Yeah,
the frame mob didn't get paid any more to make it a cav slider opening, so they're just grabbing that money and not paying anything more for it.
Like in their defence, they're covering their overheads, they're paying the whatever it is, $270 odd for a cavity sliding door frame, but there has to be money in that variation to pay the carpenter to install it. And it's not just installing the cavity frame. It takes longer to install a cavity door at fit out than it does a swinging door. Yeah, mate, you guys have got to kick back. Like, mate, I honestly think I could use a lot of explicit words to describe how it is, but I think the thing is about, like, young guys like yourself, I guess being vulnerable enough to come here today and talk to me and put your hand up and take advice. And, like, hopefully I hope you go away from this podcast and don't sleep for the next 2 nights think, holy shit, like, he's right. I need to get this, and this. And because, mate, it's only going to make you a better business and a more profitable business and a more successful business. And it'd be good to get your insight on this, because I know it really gets you down, doesn't it, when you're in that situation where you know you've done what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You know you shouldn't have to do any more, but you need that check. And the only way for you to get that check is to do a bit more work. And you know once you've done that bit more work, you're going to make even less out of that job. Yeah. But if you want the paycheck, you've got to get it done.
Yeah, and that you're just at their mercy 100%. You know, for exactly what you just said. You're just at their mercy to get that money. If they call you back, I need you to come do this. And that's the other thing. You know, if something is missed, it's never just one return trip. It's never just one, we'll get you back once, we'll get you to do the windows, and if you miss this, we'll get you to do that as well.
Yeah.
It's always, I need you here right now to do this because the brick is starting or whatever. But I don't have the material for you to do that stuff you missed. So you have to come back and do that. But get those windows in because the bricky's got to start. So, okay, you go back and put the windows in. But then there's another return trip.
But mate, this is good stuff to be talking about. So this comes down to the supervision of the jobs. And like most volume builders, and look, I'm sure there's a lot of great ones out there. But
and there are. Yep.
I know when I was doing the same shit you're doing now, like there was some supervisors that, mate, just they were not. I could think of a lot of names, but they weren't even a labourer. And it used to shit me exactly what you just said. I'd forgotten about that, but yeah, same deal. Like, and that's a great explanation. Like the brickies there throwing the windows in, and you might, I don't know, have to get something set up for the sophites or do something for the internal rough-in or whatever it may be. And you could save some time and money and get it done at the same time, but the supervisor only thought about the bricky. So, yeah, you have to end up doing multiple trips because of their, I don't know, lack of bloody experience.
And it's scary as well. I've worked with some supervisors who don't even have a trade background. They've got no trade under their belt. So how do they even know what's going on?
Yeah.
You know, and they're the worst to work for. But again, like I just said, I have seen some absolutely unbelievable supervisors.
Do you build relationships with these guys? Because obviously the better relationship you can have with them and the more they help you out, the better you're going to do.
Yeah, there's a few guys that, you know, they've moved from builder to builder and we follow with them because, you know, I know what it's like to work for this guy, and regardless of where he's working at, I know how he's going to operate, and they're always looking after you as well. Yeah, which is just unreal.
Yeah. So, Matt, is it what it's cracked up to be? Like you finishing your apprenticeship and jumping into it? Like,
there's easier ways to make quid, I reckon. That's for sure.
Well, I think you've got to give yourself some credit because you've taken, like, you're getting some training. And like I said, at your age, like if you can continue that training and that growth, like this is probably like I don't dwell on things anymore. Like I reflect a lot, and I believe that I wouldn't appreciate the situation I'm in now as much if I hadn't have been through all the shit and hard times that I did. My only regret is that it took me so many cycles to get to a point where I was like, fuck it, like something has to change. I'd take my hat off to you, like getting in some training now. Like my advice is don't back off. Like just whatever change you have, put it into yourself, like improve yourself, like learn how to run the business and just keep it going.
And it's paid off tenfold, you know, like, and it really does. It comes back more times than the initial outlay was nothing compared to what you make or save later on. It's been just crazy, and just as a business, as a person, how different you are after doing it. It's unbelievable.
That's it's incredible, isn't it? How a lot of people think they need some coaching or mentoring because of the business side of things, but like you just said, you actually end up finding out that it's a lot of personal stuff.
Yeah, it's made me a better leader for sure. Yeah. You know, like I always go back to times where, you know, you'd get yelled at for something and you just go, well, it just makes you hate the boss or whoever. You know, you don't have to yell at people to influence them. You know, you can do a lot more by just talking to them.
What do you do in your team? Like, how do you treat yours?
I try to treat the boys like they're qualified, because I think that's full of shit when you've got, you know, I know there's a bit of a hazing or whatever they've got to get through as an apprentice, but...
So what's your team look like at the moment?
So right now I've got 2 apprentices. One is a first year, one's a second year, and actually super young. So the first year is 16, and the second year I got him when he was 17. So keen as mustard, just rip in. They're actually pretty good blokes.
Yeah. Because you're saying you had a larger team, and then through COVID and that you've had to get rid of some tradies.
Yeah. I had a couple of qualifieds, and you know, it was that old age-old thing where you're like, yeah, I wouldn't mind, get a couple more people, more hands, quicker work gets done, make more money. But in reality, you don't actually make more money. When something falls over, you
not
just
when you got no
hemorrhage.
structure.
Yeah, no. And nothing to fall back on too. When something falls over, you just hemorrhage.
Yeah. When there's no structure there, it doesn't matter how many people or how good your turnover is. Like, it just means you're putting out more fires, you're losing more time, you're more stressed. Like, everything, less sleep. Like, it all turns to shit it just turns to shit quicker.
Yeah, and that don't get me wrong, it's also hard just having the two of them. From having a big crew, when you go from a large crew to a small crew, it's a massive change. And even things like when I put that day aside to do coaching, it is logistically a hard day.
So how do you go about that? Because I think this is really good to talk about, because there'd be a lot of people in your position that aren't know they need to do something, but they're not, because they're stuck in this position of like, well, how can I leave sight? Like, what?
You've just got to let go of the reins, really.
So what do your two young guys do? Like, if they're only apprentices, what do they do the day yours?
Well, so now I've got my house, they do a lot of work around my house, which is good. But where you can leave them to do things, you can, but you can't leave them on a frame and expect them to stand up walls and get it right. You're just going to ask for dramas. So you've got to pick your battles 100%. But and there's also the part where you shouldn't be leaving them alone.
So does your schedule, like, do you work that in now? Like, if you know that whatever day a week you're working on yourself and your business, like, does the job work around that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, truth be told, I had coaching Tuesday that I wasn't able to go to because it just all went to crap. But normally I've put all the dates in, well and truly ahead, and then as the jobs get scheduled, you just leave that space in there, And like, you've got to give the boys days to do their schoolwork as well, so a lot of the time they do that as well.
I think it's like, it can be a tricky one, and I know, look, I often think back to like the years where, like, we've put through, I can even tell you how many apprentices over the years, and like, I'd just scream. Like, I used to call them youngin'. Like, I'd be on site and I'd be up on scaffold or up on a roof, and I'd just be screaming, youngin', like, where are you? What like, where's that piece of timber? Like, have you cut that yet? And I think back, like, there's definitely ways I could have dealt with things better, but I guess as I've progressed and got better, and definitely as becoming a builder, and I'm very open with my team now, like, everybody has to learn. And I think the one thing I've definitely learned, and I look back, like, one of my bosses in particular, like, at the time, I just thought was an absolute prick. Well, actually, probably a couple of my bosses I thought at the time were pricks, but they just drove me like a dog. They expected so much. And it made me who I am now. But with my team now, I'm very open and just tell them, like, I don't care if the younger guys make mistakes. Like, if they stuff something up, they cut it wrong, like, it's going to cost us a bit of money here and there, but I'll get the shits if they do it multiple times. But sometimes I firmly believe now the best way for people to learn is to be left on their own. Like, obviously make sure they're safe, they know how to use the tools and those types of things, but throwing people in the deep end and saying, hey, like an apprentice, like, mate, just go and hang those doors. Like, have a crack, have a go.
Yeah.
You'll learn more from having to fix your mistakes and see what you've done wrong than you will from weeks of someone standing beside you, holding your hand, showing you every single little thing to do.
Yeah. And I mean, with coaching, it's a big concept, and I don't have my head around it completely yet, but that piece about total responsibility, So it's not their fault that they stuffed it up. What did you do wrong as the boss?
Yep.
To not set them up for success? Was it lack of training, the wrong tools? Was it, what was it? That if you keep blaming them, nothing's going to change.
Total responsibility is one of the most powerful things you can have as a business owner. Like, it doesn't matter what business owner you have. Like, if you view everything as it's your responsibility and take ownership for it, the flow and effect to your team's huge. It gives them permission to take ownership of things. Like, if you're throwing your hands in the air and screaming all the time and going off at them for making mistakes and things like that, that doesn't help anybody out. And I think that's a big one in life as well. Like, you got to take ownership. Yeah. So what type of things do you, like, what happens in your business for you to make you realise that?
I mean, we've had all those sort of stuff ups, cutting the timber wrong or whatever it may have been. And at the end of the day, just like I said, I haven't got my head around it completely yet, the concept. I'm still working on it. But just, trying to be open to the idea of, not blaming them. And especially if you've got to call a supervisor about something major. I've seen guys that instantly go, the boys, stuffed this up.
Yeah.
Well, you just look like a dickhead when you say that.
Yeah. Oh, mate, I'll put my hand up. I definitely said that back in the day. Oh, the boys have fucked that up. You need to order some more timber or whatever. But whereas now I'd say, oh, look, we've fucked this up. Like you got to take ownership for it and own it as a team, I guess. But so what is that? Like they obviously touch on that in this trades training that you're doing.
Yeah, that is probably one of the main ones they talk about for sure, and also the be do have model. I don't know if you know about that one.
No.
But, a lot of people go, when I have all the money, I'll be able to do this, and then I will be happy. Yeah, But it's flipping that on its head, and it's being happy initially,
where you're at.
and the rest flows on.
Yeah,
and that's another big concept. Again, not all over it yet. Yeah, but trying to work on it.
Yeah, no, that took me a long time to get my head around that as well. I'd talk about it a little bit differently. Like you got to be happy with the destination you're at. Yeah. Like if you feel like you're going to be happy when you get to there, how do you know that?
Exactly.
So what happens if you get to there and you feel the same way you do now? Then you're going to be searching for something else again. Yeah. You're never going to be happy. No. And I think that's the same with everything. Like the tools you have, the cars you drive, the house you live in, all that type of stuff. Like you've really got to. I think the best way to deal with that sort of stuff, which I do very regularly now, almost on a daily basis, is you've really just got to sit back and take in your surroundings. Like I do a lot of journaling, write stuff in my journal, and think, fuck, like I'm alive.
Yeah.
I am the luckiest man alive. Yeah. Like look at what I have. And it's incredible once you start thinking like that. Again, like we touched on before, like things start to fall in place. Yeah. It's a hard way to live, isn't it? When you're always thinking something else is better.
Yeah. And it's separating it from goals as well, like because you want goals, there's somewhere to get to, but you don't want that to become a blurred line either.
So what I guess what's some of your goals, mate? So you're moving on and trying to get more building work rather than just all the carpentry work.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
So that the next the next phase of my business is trying to start doing our own stuff 100%. I really would like to wind up the contract carpentry is probably another massive goal. I'm over it completely.
Yeah. So you're looking for are you trying to get enough building work that you can sort of just cut it off?
Yeah. So like all of September's our own work, which is great. It's just hopefully we can start filling the books for the rest and just keep going.
What's your opinion on like being so young? Like, do you think being young and not having experience, people possibly don't look at to do their job because they're worried about how it's going to turn out?
It's extremely hard, but one thing I've learned, and I definitely think coaching's got something to do with it, is being able to really effectively communicate what you're going to give them for the money, and I've had it a few times where, I've done a quote, they've left it for a few months and come back to it trying to get the same price. And you go, well, no, we've got to reprice this now. You've expired. The quote's expired. Let's relook at it. And it comes in more. And, I could easily just say, well, that's just how it is. But, being able to effectively communicate, well, our pricing structure's changed. We're actually not making any money with the old pricing, and that's one thing I learned from Launchpad was about getting your overheads in there at the start before you add your margin.
Yeah.
And that was one of the big changes that I've done once we came off Launchpad.
Mate, we need to get you on your quotes. So, look, another tip I'd be giving you if you is changing your wording. Like now, like quotes is something contractors do. Like you're starting to build now, you want to be giving your clients proposals. Yeah. Like it's a whole different ball game. Like you're actually providing a proposal which outlines all the scopes of works and the allowances and everything you're going to deliver them. Yeah. And even just little things like that, like you come across more professional. Yeah, like 100%. You turn up to a client, or a client contacts you, and you say, "Oh, look, for us to be able to provide you a proposal, I've got to do this." Like, how much more professional does that sound? Than look, I'll smash out a quote.
Yeah, 100%. And even like right now, I use Build Exact, and when we got that on board and started using that, like the difference between just writing something up in Xero as a quote, and then that the proposal that Build Exact quotees can put together is exponentially different.
Yeah. So what's some things you're doing to get some more work in the door?
So I've just got a marketing guy on board. So we're paying him every month and he's taken over all our social media. So I've had a lot of people message me and say, oh, what's going on differently? Because you never used to do these posts and things that have got going up. I said, well, I'm not doing them. So that's been a big one, and I believe that's honestly why I've got the work for next month of my own stuff.
Just be careful with that. Like, you still want to make sure you're attracting people that your people, like your culture, your quality, your beliefs, all those things. Like, you don't want to get it too separated. Like, your story still needs to come across in that marketing.
Yeah, 100%. And that's probably something we need to work on, because right now all I do is the behind the scenes videos, what's going on site, things like that. I think probably bringing it a bit more back to a personal level would be good for sure, because it is very just, dry, I suppose. Yeah. It's a finished photo and a write-up. There's no personal connection there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that personal connection is the biggest thing, and making sure you got, like, I'm sure they do if they're marketing people, but like making sure you got calls to action and all that sort of thing. But like, is your goal to like get to a point like where you've got a supervisor that's maybe run a couple of jobs, and like you're more involved with all the pre-planning type stuff? Because I noticed, I went back quickly this morning and flicked through all the messages we've sent over the period of time on social media, and I noticed that each time, there's been quite a few times where I've done stories about our pack process or avoiding variations and things that you've jumped in and said, agree 100%.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I know where I want to be in the business, which is purely business development, off the tools. I absolutely hate. I love being in the sun with the boys, the banter, but I much prefer talking to people and doing the business development. I actually really enjoy that. So that's goal is, next 12 months is sort of how do we move from me having to be on site every day with the boys to me being in the office.
Yeah. Mate, that's a really good goal to have. Yeah. And so how do you do your goals and things? Are you writing them down? Or?
Yeah, so I actually made this little thing about a month ago, I reckon. I called it Goal Mountain, which is the same thing as what my coaching does, really. It's the big goals at the top of the mountain. Yeah. There's 7 or 8 base camps up the mountain. What's the little goals to get to the big goal has been one of the big changes for me. So now I can see, all right, this is the journey that we have to go on.
That's so important.
Even better if I can get the boys to set out the journey. So I've got the vision for the business. The boys make the path up the mountain. That'd be even better. Yeah. Because then they've bought in. They've bought into the idea.
Yeah, 100%. Mate, that's so important, because a lot of us just are focused on the end destination, and yet we've got no idea, no plan. Like a pilot doesn't fly a plane without having a course, or like you don't sail a ship around the world without plotting a course or knowing where you go. Like you don't even go for a drive on the weekend without following roads GPS, and your GPS. Like, it's funny, like so many, I don't know why it takes so long to click for a lot of us, but having that outline. And I think the other really important part of that is you've got to celebrate those base camps.
Yeah, the little wins.
Wins.
That's it.
Because the little wins inspire the next win and the next win, and it's super important, mate. You're I'm really keen to follow your progress and see where you end up. Like, if you're on this journey now, like I said before, like, don't stop. Yeah. Like, are you addicted yet? Like,
I am addicted to the progress, and me and my coach, we talk about a lot. Just momentum is the key now, because a lot of the things I talked about this initially with coaching was that I felt like I was just slipping. I'd get a grip and I'd slip, and then we'd just be like doing burnouts almost. Yeah. So now that we've got some movement,
so can you think of an example? Like
it's just like things like we had the big crew. So I built up to this big crew, and then it all went to shit. And then we've slipped, and now we've got to rebuild again. You know, so it's sort of, now that we're moving in the right direction, it's keeping the momentum now. Yeah, don't have to speed up the hill. But, like an old steam engine. Yeah. Just keep the power down.
It'll always get there. Just chugs along. Yeah. I think that's another important lesson, like just small steps. Yeah. Like you've got to know the journey. You've got to take the small steps, and you've got to celebrate the wins along the way, and that just makes that end goal so much more exciting, I guess.
Yeah, and my coach, he had to give me a woo up, because it was exactly that. I thought it was like a race. Let's just get up there as quick as possible, And
everyone's going to do it differently. Yeah. Like we're all very different people. Like, have you done anything on like who you are, like who finding out who you are, your strengths, your weaknesses? Like,
not massively, no.
What's your superpower?
I'm still trying to work that one out.
It's it all plays a part in it. But mate, you were talking before we started recording, like you've moved out, you're a long drive from your jobs and stuff. Like, is your plan to find work closer to home so you're not wasting so much time travelling?
Yeah, well, so that's what the top of Gold Mountain is, that I want to be Gippsland's best renovation builder.
Yeah.
So that's Gold Mountain.
Well, you've put it out, mate. It's in the universe now.
That's in the universe now, yeah. And so it's, really trying to reel that work back in. You know.
And what are you doing on these long drives? Like
Podcast, level up. It's a mixture. So in the morning, it's podcasts, whatever it may be. And then the afternoon, it's got to be a jam out.
Yeah. Cranking the tunes.
That's it. Yeah.
What's your favourite Akadaka song?
Hell's Bells, pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Highway to Hell, though.
You would have been to a few concerts, wouldn't you?
I've been to both their last concerts.
Yeah.
So Black Ice and Rock and Roll Train. That was unreal.
Yeah.
But word on the street was that they were coming back out. But
mate, they better do it soon because they've got some age on them now.
That's it. They're not getting any younger,
Yeah, mate, they're incredible concerts. I think I've been to 5 of their concerts now. They're insane. They're loud. They're bloody. Actually didn't like the last one too much. I thought it was too loud, and they were compensating for their voices getting bad. Like you couldn't make out the words. I think that's just part of being an old rock band.
That's it.
So what else do you do, mate, to chill out? Like you're a young bloke. You got a family?
Yeah, it's got the missus. We got the first one on the way. So love camping. Love it.
Yeah. So is your business and the coaching and everything and the drive you have now, does that inspire you, like to be able to do more of that? If you run a better business, you get more time, you got more cash, you can do more of what you like doing. Yeah,
and funny enough, in the coaching, we had a mentor come in, which was one of their old clients who's now a coach, and he built it. One of his goals was he wanted to build a business that he could be on the road full time and have the business work remotely. So, anything's possible. You just got to build it to that point, don't you?
Yeah. And so you want to get out camping and travelling?
Yeah. I tried to throw the idea to the missus before we bought this house to, buy a van. We'll go on the road for a few years. Do travel and chippy sort of setup. Yeah. She wasn't too much of a keen on that.
There's a lot of people doing that now.
Yeah, it's huge.
Did you follow that Ranson?
Yeah, he's killing it, isn't he?
Yeah, he's going well. He's a local boy from Brisbane, but I've never met him in person, but I love what he's doing.
Yeah, I love his truck.
It's a beast, isn't it? Yeah. There's a lot of people doing that now, like just packing up. And I know a lot of people that are making a pretty healthy income by travelling, like handyman, painters, roofers, carpenters. Yeah, it can be a good lifestyle.
Well, I mean, just in those remote towns, there's not a chippy or whatever trade for ages. And if you're a bit of a jack of all, you do pretty well, I reckon.
Yeah. Well, mate, look, really appreciate your time and for coming up here today, and especially while you're up here to get this award. So what's the plans? You're going to spend a couple of days here in Brizzy, or what?
So fly out Sunday, spend 2 days here, might go down to Dreamworld tomorrow and see how we go.
Oh, good on you, mate. Well, enjoy your time here. And so look, for anyone listening and that, where can they find you? Like, what's your social medias and stuff?
Yeah, so website signaturebuildingco.com.au, or find us on Instagram at signature_buildingco.
Yeah. No, look, I was going to check him out. Like I said, I take my hat off to you, mate. You're putting in the hard yard. So if anyone down in Gippsland area needs some renovating or extensions, give you a shout out, eh?
That's it. Thanks very much for having me.
No worries. Cheers, mate.
Are you ready to build smarter, live better and enjoy life? Then head over to livelifebuild.com/elevate to get started.
Everything discussed during the Level Up podcast with me, Dwayne Pearce, is based solely on my own personal experiences and those experiences of my guests. The information, opinions and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. We recommend that you obtain your own professional advice in respect to the topics discussed during this podcast.